Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews, and this is Refuge from Narcissism. And this refugee video is a sponsored video sponsored by John for B. And this is B's story. Where can I even start? Like I've heard on other videos, there's an endless amount of terrible things, and a book wouldn't even cover it. Basically, the household family narcissistic unit is two parents and an older brother. They are all working together, but have played so many dark games to confuse me, as I've heard many times from other stories. It was helpful when a friend last year finally said they're all working together. It's so clear. Because their games often involve having someone play flying monkey, even though I've known they're all completely dangerous. I don't trust anyone I'm related to because if they're in contact with them and think they're okay, that's obviously a bridge. Good policy. You can have no bridges back to the narcissist. Extended parts of the narcissistic family unit include my father's mother. Also, my father's sister and her husband have lived with his mother, my grandmother, for 20 years, ever since my aunt suffered from a stroke. Of course, I'm guessing she was the scapegoat because she never fully recovered. I also have mainly positive memories of her, but knowing she was close to her brother, my father, I doubt she was actually as kind as me as an innocent child would have wanted to believe. I'm guessing that before her, it was my father's father because he died so early around when my parents got married. Writing that it to you, it sounds so planned. Also, my mother's nephew hasn't been directly, obviously abusive, but has tried to gather info from my mother on me by letting me stay at their place. I bonded with their scapegoat, their second youngest of four kids, when I stayed over a couple summers ago. Clearly, they were talking to my parents and have been using a lot of the same tricks and tactics. Anyway, to get down to all of my family members that I've lived with, three of them and my grandmother have all been physically abusive. It was so extreme it takes forever to realize it's not your fault. Also, because you happen to survive is a bad excuse for them to lie and say they're not trying to kill you. Usually they used hands, their bodies, belts, shoes, and the mother loved using back scratchers. Also, not to confuse you, I may be saying the instead of my in reference to my abusers because I do not want to claim they are actually family. I am scared to get into it even now. They are circling, stalking me. I'm staying on the couch because they ran me out of my room. They have always tried to get me sexually abused. They are so obsessed with it, it's really creepy. All the planning and keeping me away from anyone positive or safe, but having me around sexually abusive people only. Mostly it seemed like I was dating them, which just enables their game playing. So I thought I had done something, but it was only liability purposes. I I can now know as an adult that made them start physically abusing me when I was 3. They must have read it was okay for their own liability. Their mother and brother spent most of the time carrying out the physical abuse. The father and his par- the father as had his part as if he had all the money and used it, and the mother pretended to be the victim of financial abuse. It's such a game. Hold on. It's such a game. They file taxes together. There's nothing she doesn't know about. The brother is 4 years older and always claimed physical superiority just because he's older and male when he's really just been physically harming me my whole life. My father smacked me in the face when I was 3 for touching the car parking drive part, and when I was 4 for dropping a cookie. When he first put in my head to drop it because he threatened me so seriously, already using this game, that I better not drop the cookie on the floor. I was 4. Also, when I was 11, and probably other blocked out times, the mother and brother spent most of their time beating me all day. Lots of other mental games. And I am assuming from your name and from the setup, you are another black Cinderella, okay? Another black Cinderella, okay? In the cult of the queen bee taking abuse. And in this case, your father's still in the picture. But even your father is subservient to the queen bee, where it's nothing but violence, name-calling, abuse, whether it be physical, sexual, emotional. And then it's don't air the dirty laundry. This is how families are. Bullshit. Bullshit. I know you're afraid of exposing them. I know you're afraid of all that, but that's what they're counting on. They abuse you, Black Cinderella, so you keep your mouth shut about it. So you don't air their dirty laundry. They still play like stealing my things. I was 22 at the time. I realized this game my mother spent my entire life creating. Since I was a kid, she would regularly steal my things, but the sketchy part is she would convince me I lost them. Now, this is something Charlene's mother did to her constantly, her entire life. Stole her property, stole her things. In fact, her whole family was allowed to steal her things, barge in on her in the bathroom, try to see her in the shower, her brothers, her father. Nobody stopped it. When Charlene would catch her mother stealing her things, the mother would lie. Not that she lost them, that, oh no, these were always mine. It was so bad, okay, when she was working for cosmetics, okay, and they would get you, vendor merchandise, okay, they would give you your own, it was called gratis, okay, where these vendor companies would allow you to take the product home, but you had a gratis number that had to be engraved on the bottle that corresponded to your gratis number. So when you went through security and you couldn't return it, you completely unique. She would take her gratis merchandise and claim she bought it. And when you point out, you see this engraved number. No, that was there. That's on all the bottles. You can't shake them. You can't shake them. Don't matter. Don't matter what proof you have. Don't matter what evidence you have. It doesn't matter. I used to yell as a child. I knew she obviously took it, and she spent hours, for years, days, gaslighting me. She'd say, why would I take it? Because she's fucking borderline. She tried to convince and brainwash me, and effectively did that. I just lost things. I went to college with this brainwashing, thinking I had a need for my abusers because she was the only person who could find my lost, not stolen things, because she was obviously taking it. No, she could find my lost, no stolen things, because obviously she was the one taking it. Right. In middle school, they forced me into this horrible, enabling, and I think very narcissistic and dangerous therapy. Fucking organization. It's both religious and governmental, and it preys on children. It really banks on the idea that, similar to people's age, old belief in Christianity that it just has to be good no matter what. Lots of people think it's always positive and deny its extreme narcissism and total control tactics that many of them use. This whole place is dangerous. I could even feel it drain me in the building in memory. It's all over. It's all over. People have tried to refer to it because it's supposed to be like a service, government service. There's probably tons in the country. Anyway, all the people there are evil. Honestly, the whole place is. Of course, my abusers probably heard they could use it to abuse their kids even more from other sociopathic parents, so they did it to me. Right, they love religious organizations, religious cults, anything that they could use where they can replace themselves as God and hold it over you. This is Cinderella 101. This is Black Cinderella 101. Okay, and even if you're not black, it's the same mentality. It's the same cult-like mentality. There is a queen bee driving all of this. Of course, my abusers probably heard they could use it to abuse their kids even more from other sociopathic parents, so they did it to me. I felt better than ever and freer in middle school, so the mother kept telling me I was sad and then forced me with her abuse to go to therapy. She did the same thing with forcing me to go to church or anything else, or at least she wouldn't be physically beating me while I was there. This almost sounds like Scientology as well. The sadness, you're unhappy. I mean, it sounds like, it's cult. They're just cults. It's cults. And that's what the queen bee is. The queen bee is just another cult. It's cult-like behavior where everybody worships this queen. Anyway, all the people there are evil. The whole place is. Of course, hold on. I already read that one. She did the same thing, forcing me to go to church or anything else by saying at least she wouldn't be physically beating me while I was there. That sounds like a black mother. Because it's always the queen bee that's proud. That's literally proud of beating you. It's like a badge of honor. I'll never understand it. Even now, the mother plays on the computer right now. This is Narcissistic. Liberal gossip full of fake victims and lots of misogyny. Everyone denies it, at least up until recently. I've been advocating as much as possible for myself, but growing up, etc., everyone insists parents love you, what the fuck, or you deserve it. None of which has any basis. It might be possible, but not in my experience that's true, that parents have love for their kids. No, not yours. You're just pawns. You're just pawns. Yeah, there is no love. Anybody telling you from the outside they love you, anybody telling you you deserve it, like, it really get them the fuck out. The mother forced me into this place, which cut me off from my instincts, just being in the building. There were 2 therapists I was forced to see in middle school, and the second one was overtly abusive and caused depression in me for the first time. They were literally trying to create and make up as many problems as they could. The second one started in the 7th grade, nonstop, guilted me for no reason, shamed me, and kept telling me I wasn't that great, nonstop putting me down. She asked She asked about me and then severely deprecated me, said I was bad, not that smart. I've always been a genius. I got into college when I was 10 and it was nice to be acknowledged, but I desperately wanted to leave. I have been focusing on leaving my entire childhood. They also inferred with my career. Interfered with my career, starting when I was offered to have my poems published when I was barely 8 years old by a well-known, respected publisher. Of course, he died when I was 15, and they rubbed it in by taking me to a memorial reading, the same place I was offered the career. They just kept saying, yeah, you call them since you want the job. When they knew I was quiet, I was 8. It's their job to support it. That's why the publisher was talking to them for hours about me. They were listening and just plotting how to control me while maybe putting up an act as if they were supported, but keeping me from it. Anyway, I became depressed and suicidal because of the abuse from the horrific therapist. They eventually seemed almost helpful. When, because of liability and fear of getting caught, they realized they had to pretend they weren't okay with the mother being physically abusing me. So she was like telling them she was hitting you. I think they just didn't want to get caught, and if someone else, an adult or an authority, and they got caught, that they knew they could be in trouble, lose their license, and maybe even legal repercussions. Yeah, if they know you're being abused by your mother and they don't do anything about it, yeah, there's be major repercussions. So while still enabling the mother, they told the mother not to hit me. She said I was too old to get hit, by then 12 or 13. The sketchy thing is, she continued to act like the mother was a victim for just not being able to keep from hitting me. Yeah, so I'm the victim because I can't stop hitting you? That's some shit that would have come out of my mother's mouth. I think she forced me to sign a contract again and again in this therapy, especially used to prey on children. I had no rights and I did not hire them. It was for the purpose of parents and other narcissists to be even more abusive and dangerous to their scapegoats and victims. The contract, I think, was that she was not allowed to hit me, but I was supposed to do everything she said in exchange. What the fuck? This is long. Anyway, moving along, I avoided direct physical violence because they had her sign a contract not to fucking hit you. I think they could still be a liability if they didn't notify the authorities. Anyway, moving along, I avoided direct physical violence because I was at the school that was liberating to all its students. I don't want to name for privacy. For 2 years in high school, I was so free, happy during those years. The second year, towards the end, I got sexually assaulted by a girl I was seeing. She was older and borderline. I was in an abusive relationship orchestrated by my family, also using my queerness to harm me for all of sophomore year. Then the summer after, they forced me to stay at a racist. I knew you had to be black. I knew you had to be black. By the way, this is written. You're another queen. You're another victim of the queen bee syndrome. You are afraid of this monster. You are afraid of this violent don't get me all started. I'm gonna beat that ass. Fuck that. Do you know how many black women are on my channel because of the queen bee? Violent women. They destroy your femininity. They destroy your sexuality. They destroy you. Then the summer after, they forced me to stay at a racist class, which drained me, and a gay thing that was super sexually predatory, even as even as a community center. She said if I didn't do these activities while I was working a high-paying job close to my career in music, then she would just have to hit me as if she couldn't help it. She started hitting me in August anyway, at least two long occasions. I started to think I was this girl who was also still implicitly racist and draining me, and the abuse drew me towards these people they intentionally had around me that were bad for me. You're thinking you're racist. Why? Because your mother is telling you think you're better than her? Are you lighter skinned than your mother? Is that where this is coming from? The violence and the anger? I would almost guarantee it. I'd bet anything on it. I bet anything on it. She's just yelling shit at you as she's beating. Not as she's hitting you. It's what she's saying to you as she's hitting you. You ugly. You think you better than me. You think this. You think that. How many times she accused you, telling you what you think as she's hitting you? They made me spend all my savings and money when I was 15 because I was earning money. That fall I was safer, but the physical violence made my 15-year-old self ache to leave school and start working full time so I could escape. They egged me on to leave the extremely positive school I was at, which helped me avoid their physical direct abuse. I cut school to start work, but then they abused and sabotaged my efforts. By then, I was weeks away from 16 and knew I could be emancipated with a job. Everyone now thinks I ditched school like a dropout. I ended up transferring because they wouldn't let me go straight to college. I was way ahead of essentially all of them. There's nothing that there's nothing that wouldn't take me. Oh, and when I was 15, they used my abusive relationship and their whole manipulation of that to force me back to the terrible therapy place. This guy was worse than ever, a covert narcissist. So dangerous, claiming care to actually do the most violent things to me the whole time. I will get to. They now use their sexual abuse and my queerness and even more weapons and shit to use to harm me. He told me to be nicer to my sexually abusive girlfriend, like the psychopath everyone there is. I was barely 15 and obviously believed he was just naive about gay relationships and the high rates of sexual assault in them, but it was obviously so intentional. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, especially lesbian relationships. They're violent. They're violent. They forced me to transfer by saying cutting was making me lose things instead of what I was doing, which was trying to be free of them and have my own life. They kept feeding into a fake narrative as I was making mistakes as a dropout, not like an overachiever who was working and way ahead of college and literally had every opportunity at my fingertips. So they had to sabotage. Basically, they forced me to a crappy, low-quality school. It didn't do anything for me, but allowed them to continue their physical abuse. When I tried to get them in trouble by pretending I was suicidal, that'll never work. Never pretend to be anything. That never works. Because they're just going to turn that and throw you in a mental institution and say, oh, you're suicidal. You can't be trusted ever again. When I tried to get them in trouble by pretending I was suicidal, the thing which got the other overtly abusive therapists to say they would go to prison for abusing me, the even worse, dangerous, covert covert therapist forced me to go into a mental institution. That's what I'm telling you. Yeah, that's exactly what was going to happen. Never do that. Never do that. This is one of the darkest things, and it is so difficult because it is a protected thing. This is a Nazi torture treatment. I didn't know for years that they had drugged me. I was an outpatient for 12 weeks, and then the fall with the follow-up place, which I also just realized definitely drugged me as my cognition function and physical body health declined so low when I was only 16. I am not certain what even your thoughts are on this, as it is heavily promoted as advertised as helpful. On top of extreme abuse with it, I felt like I was continually devolving since I was barely 16 when they did that to me. Now I lost so much function to go to work and escape. I couldn't stay in college. I had too many issues with roommates. I got out towards the end of 16, right after I turned 17. I was leaving the house regularly, ended up staying with sexually abusive people. After a semester of college, the second half of 17, the brother increased his dangerous role and preyed on me so hard since I was 18 all year. I now realize he's a down low gay misogynist. That's what'll happen. The queen bee fucks up everybody's sexuality. Queen bee fucks up everybody. Makes them angry and bitter, and they just want to go out and they want to lash out. It's like a feeding frenzy to please the queen bee. It's a feeding frenzy. This is what how they act. In a frenzy to please that queen bee. They're angry, they're hostile, they got all these emotions, they don't understand why. They don't understand it's because this queen bee has destroyed everybody. His misogyny has been a huge part of him, which he used feeding off me and his down low boyfriend, who came onto me to pretend that he's a feminist. He's a dangerous, covert sociopath who pretends to be good over the top because he's hiding. He literally has used fake things like unconditional loving and empathy to pretend he's not just narcissistic and that he's good. Whenever he says he cares about me, he's really saying he's feeding off me. Basically, I was 18, wanted to avoid physical assault. The brother was the flying monkey, pretending he was helpful as a fake alternative. Also, he had stopped beating me up when I was 11 or 12 and used this game to pull me away from the mother like a fake protector. Really is a son husband. This was always a plan. But it worked. I was 11 and let him feed off me for his career when I was 15, 16, and 18. He pretends since he stopped beating me up that he now has absolved all his abuse. He is now absolved of all his abuse. He fed off doing sketchy cult things to me when I was 18 and stole my eyeglasses. I couldn't see for 7 years. I was 18 and he and the parents refused to help me get eyeglasses. For 7 years you couldn't get eyeglasses? I was essentially a total slave. I stayed out when I was 19. I got involved spiritually, which mostly was pretty sketchy and cult-like. This is all cult-like. It's all a cult. All of it is a cult. Of course, the brother supported this, abusing me. He kept telling me we were codependent to brainwash me. He told me I didn't do anything, and so did his boyfriend, who didn't even know me. What a sketchy abuse tactic. Who are you? It really broke me, and I looked so much worse from all the drugging they had done without my consent or knowledge, and I had lost even abilities to read. I was in extreme physical pain. I would black out in pain during my period since I had turned 18. I turned vegan but was undereating and essentially starving my adulthood. I was also undereating as a kid, but wasn't bad like that. I had a thing called a Kundalini emergency. Essentially, sexual energy was being stolen and manipulated and seemed like nobody knows about unexplained science. Sexual energy was being. All right, look, B. I think, look, I think this whole cult-like upbringing has you believing you don't even know what reality is anymore. Okay, I think it's got you believing some really weird shit. Okay, sexual energy being stolen and manipulated. You start spouting that out, people are going to try to are going to stop taking you seriously. Like I got to give it to you straight on that. Okay, you are so immersed in the cult-like behavior, like that's a bit much. Essentially, sexual energy was being stolen and manipulated, and it seems like nobody knows about unexplained science. Immediately after, the brother's boyfriend came on to me. Listen, just because he came on to you, it's not because you're having some kind of Kundalini emergency. This is a cult. In cults, sexual behavior, okay, sexual deviance is a major portion of it. You don't have a cult without sexual deviancy. Period. Period. It's all part of your cult-like upbringing. It's all a cult. You have to separate yourself from all of it before you can even try to assess any of this clearly. A couple weeks in the last time we had made out, they stole my eyeglasses. I also felt out of body after doing this spiritual process. I basically had no control over my body, even mine was messed with, and they kept me blind soon after. I stayed out with an older male who was also inappropriate. I left and got into an even more dangerous cult. Several people sexually abused me. You're running from one cult to the next. You're going from one cult to the next, and all cults will sexually abuse you. They just do. That's what makes them cults. They all run the same playbook. All these cults will run the same playbook. Just because they run the same playbook doesn't mean they're interconnected somehow. You're running to what's familiar to you. I ended up severely abused by this one weirdo who broke me so much I stayed with the main cult person, the most obvious creep. I knew when I had met him earlier, the first thought I could tell he was obviously a rapist. The whole time I would return home every few days to pick up money or for food and change of clothes. The family knew exactly what was going on and kept egging me, trying to get me sexually abused as much as possible. The brother was still getting all my info as the flying monkey. My rapist also took me to an ECT machine. I was 19, out of it, blind, and somehow I ended up with a more severe Nazi torture to erase my brain function. It helped them more easily rape me. I didn't realize what it was, but they called it the machine, called it healing, and upon researching things like the drugging, I finally realized years later what it was. I finally left and met other slightly less dangerous spiritual people. I got involved with an older male, and you keep going to men. I thought you were gay. You're everywhere. Your mother has completely destroyed you. She has completely destroyed you and has made you dependent on cult-like behavior. I got involved with an older male who helped financially support me, sort of gave me space and whatnot to deal with narcissists mentally and to extend mentally to an extent, and helped me eat. It was also debilitating because in the end they were also narcissistic, and much as it seemed a lot better than what I had just come from, there was still sexual abuse elements, but they were so proud they weren't full-on rapists. Finally, I got eyeglasses at 25 and started eating meat. My room caught fire. I was okay, just on the wall, but I was cast out of my room. Well, how does a room catch fire? You were cast out, meaning they threw you out, or you had to leave because of the damage. I finally started going out. I started hanging out with someone I truly love, who is truly kind, but the entire family realized later was stalking all my texts and knew what games to play. The brother said and did all sorts of games and guilted and shamed me. Said the person asked him if I was crazy because I trusted them and early on told them what they had done to me. He tried to tell me and convince me that they thought I was crazy. As a golden child, he wanted me to think, and had been successfully brainwashing me, that there's something wrong with me. No, there's something everything wrong with him. I started working and was trying to work on the positive, loving friendship I had, which the family was stalking and sabotaging. Then last year, everything got weird. I had finally locked my door, so they came banging violently regularly and rode on it, vandalizing it. I eventually saved up to leave last year. I hit down to Florida in November. It was important just to leave, but with all my insecurities about functioning, I didn't start working full time there. It was still so important to get away. I ended up feeling out of it from this sketchy place I stayed and returned back to the house January 1. I was going to leave, but one of my friends, who is my new closest support that I mentioned in my previous email, keeps telling me I will be homeless. I need to be an advocate for myself now. I need to get a car and also learn to drive if I leave New York. If I stay in New York, I may need roommates to afford it. I'm thinking of staying in New York in my own space for a month, then getting ready with money and the space to think and work and function, get ready to go back to Florida. It's also stressful in New York. I'm bored of it, especially want to leave right now. The main thing bothering me right now, my room is full of sewage. A bum took all my belongings when I was moving them a year and a half ago out of desperation. Damn it. Hold on. A bum took all my belongings when I was moving them a year and a half ago out of desperation. I didn't immediately throw it all out, even though it was dirty. After it was full of sewage, how did you deal with the smell? They eventually infected every surface in my room. That's when I ran. Stalking my text, I realized they all knew about my dirty, unsanitary room because they focused all their energy on not allowing me to remove all the infected furniture. They started physically assaulting me and sprayed Lysol in my face when I hired junk removal. Were the junk removal people there and they were hitting you with Lysol? Mother threw a tantrum and pretended she was in danger from catching something from an outside person. The brother stopped. The brother stopped since lockdown, pretending to be all protective. When I came back, the father was now trying to play the part of flying monkey. They stole my social watch, which I left behind. When I told them to hand it over, they kept lying, saying they don't have it. I could see it all over their face. They know exactly where it is as they lie. They tricked me to go into my room and look for it where they had taken it from. It all got infected and my face started looking bad, and it's breaking me down, them physically breaking me with sewage all over the place. I had to leave. They sabotaged the most loving person, kind, really kind, that I have truly always loved, the one I hung out with at 25. They couldn't understand what was going on. I kept blaming them for abuse, but they're such good people to me, and I was being toyed with to keep positive, freeing people and everything away. I don't understand what you're saying there. This is really getting Now I hope my main support stays on board with me leaving, because they've been sabotaging me, thinking they know what's best. They are great and help me get back to work and feel like myself, but put me in dangerous living situations because they're just delusional golden children. This was lots of info that might be obvious if put online public. Nothing is obvious here. Nothing. There's nothing obvious here. There's nothing identifying here. Nothing. Nothing. Is there a way to talk first? And see, you guys gotta, like, no. Like, when you send me something, especially when you ask for a sponsor. No. So any advice, ideas, thanks for listening. I really need to escape right now, looking for a cheap apartment locally right now, but can't afford to do a lease. I need my space. Thanks, B. B, if these people are such stalkers and are doing anything in New York, okay, they're just gonna run you down. They're just gonna stalk you, okay? You are moving from one cult to the next cult, to the next cult. If everything you're telling me is true and accurate, okay? And I think there's some stuff here that you think is happening that's not happening, like the sexual energy theft, and okay, they're making you crazy. They're making you crazy. You shouldn't be trying to do anything in New York right now other than trying to get out. New York is unsustainable. New Jersey's unsustainable. The tri-state area is unsustainable. It's falling apart. It ain't gonna. You don't know what's gonna be left in 2 to 4 years. Any escape from these people, if what you're telling me is accurate, has to be far away from them as possible. And you sure as hell are not going to get anywhere by protecting their identities. Okay? This story is completely vague. There's no way to identify them with anything, anywhere. Okay? So don't worry about that. Okay? You are living in complete fear of them, and that's how cults get you to think. They get you to live in fear for life. And the queen bee, okay, is which I am positive raised you, okay? They're running a cult. That's all it is. That's all it is you're just bouncing from one cult to the next. You need to completely remove yourself from everybody. From everybody you know right now. From everybody you talk to. From anybody you've dealt with on anything like this. And start fresh. No baggage. No anything. You have the ability to work. Find a job. There's no reason why it should have taken you 7 years to have your glasses replaced. None. other than your cult family making you believe it. That's it. So, I hope that helps. Thank you, B, for writing in. Thank you to John for sponsoring her story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or you'd just like to make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Refuge from Narcissism. Take